Okay, so you are not Marjorie, because I can see Marjorie sitting there. So
do you want to go first?
You are Katherine Morris.
That's correct.
So 1039, everyone. If you could start up the live stream again, we'll get underway again, and invite and welcome Katherine Morris, and thank you for coming in a wee bit earlier. We're just trying to reschedule. Some people have changed their order of speaking and everything, so we're very grateful to you for coming in early.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do I start?
That's you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Good afternoon. My submission is to alert the Council to the urgent need for protection of South Shore from inundation from the estuary. I'm a long-term resident. I've been there for over 40 years and in South Shore, and I care deeply about the area. I don't know if you know exactly where it is, but it's south of South New Brighton. The main road is Rocking Horse Road. It has the sea on one side and the estuary on the other. It's a wonderful place to live with a feeling of nature so close at hand. But we don't want it so close that we are having the estuary flood the area. The land adjacent to the estuary moved during the quakes and is more vulnerable to inundation. All sections were red zoned and houses demolished along the estuary edge. The people living there had previously maintained their estuary walls and therefore protected the area. The estuary edge is now a disgrace and an eyesore. With no maintenance and the damage done by demolitions, we are threatened by flooding. Storm conditions coinciding with high tide mean that the area is liable to be badly flooded. Sea level rise will make the matter worse. Some form of protection is urgently required. A comprehensive report has been prepared for the South Shore Residents Association by Gary Tier of OSEL Consultants New Zealand Limited. There was a previous speaker who sent you copies of this.
Yeah.
This recommends a berm running along the estuary shoreline. This has been designed to protect us from flooding and enhance the fabulous area along the estuary with an elevated walkway, cycleway along the shoreline. I'm sure the Council does not wish to be bullied by insurance companies, but insurance companies expect the Council to protect us from flooding. Otherwise, we could lose insurance on our houses. There are at least 500 houses in South Shore, many of which are expensive rebuilds from the earthquakes. The Council cannot allow that and then leave the estuary edge to keep eroding away and potentially flood. The grassed red zone area adjacent to the estuary is now a great recreational asset for locals and for everyone. It must not be allowed to erode, but be protected by a bund, which will also protect flooding of the streets and houses. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Sarah.
Thank you, and I completely agree with you about sea level rise and the impact that that's going to have, especially on these really low-lying areas. And we've heard several submissions today from people who have said the same thing. There's another group who I haven't seen a submission from yet, whose opinion is different, and so they're questioning the science and the sea level rise, and also say that they represent all of the residents in your area. And so I'm wondering how that sits with you.
Well, the estuary land has changed through the earthquake. The estuary's changed.
That's right.
Walking along there last week, the estuary is coming in onto the grassed area. A small bund raised area was put in on the Sarah land. It's now starting to make its way to the top in certain areas. The situation is getting worse. I can see it happening because I walk there every day.
Yeah, but we have this group of people telling us not to hurry along and do things because sea level rise isn't really happening, and we need to.
Yes, I'm not. This isn't sea level. I'm no geologist.
So you mentioned it before,
but it's happening now. I don't know what's doing
right.
it, but it is happening. You can see because there's remnants if you're not there at high tide, but there's remnants left
Yeah.
from what's been washed in.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that we're seeking to address is working collaboratively with Regenerate Christchurch.
Yes.
South Shore has, of course, that strip of residential red zone, which is where I thought that the bund was proposed to be built. So that actually has to be led by a regeneration plan process. But the consulting that the local community have done has been incredibly extensive. So, I think that in terms of the consultation, there will have to be obviously assessments and things like that, and then how it relates to the estuary, because to be honest, there was and I noticed that you reflect on the wall on the other side on Beachville Road, but there was already a stone wall there. And it had to be repaired, and actually once you put in a stone wall, it actually limits your options. You can't go back to a natural environment. It's the end of the road, as it were. So it's not an easy comparison because of the ecosystem of the whole of the estuary, and a desire to get Ramsar status for the estuary itself. South New Brighton, there's an area in there that's not been red zoned. And so the Christchurch City Council really does have to lead a bit of work with the local community about stop banks, but then the stop banks lead straight back into the residential red zone, which brings back Regenerate Christchurch. So we're trying to think of this strategically. I know it's hard for residents, particularly yourself, who do happen to live in one of the most glorious parts of the city.
We'll share it.
But all I'm saying is that the issue has been really well canvassed, and the community have been very clear about what they want to achieve, and what the outcome is. Will have to go through a process that involves Regenerate Christchurch and our city planners and land drainage and all of the different components working together in a collaboration.
Yeah, I realise that, but I just wanted to make sure that we alerted you people, because you have sway over everyone else, and the comparison with Redcliffe's was merely just to say, preempt you saying, there isn't enough money, and we could say, well, look, it's already happened there.
No, it's not a question of money versus, it's a question of that is an incredibly precious, complex, changing, dynamic coastal environment on our estuary side. Yeah. So there's a lot of work to be done, but you're absolutely right to bring it to the attention of the governance of the city.
And it has changed even in the last couple of weeks with these storms. And
I know, and it will continually change. Yeah, but look, thank you very much for coming and making your views known. And I did see